good afternoon. And I'm asking you to say it out loud, not for my sake and not for yours alone, but because these words travel farther than this room. They find their way into kitchens and hospital rooms and quiet corners in cities we may never see. When they hear you, they know they are not alone. So say it again with me. Good afternoon to those in the next street and to those beyond the next ocean. Now we are one circle of hearing. Oneness isn't a theory. It's your identity. If you can catch that in the first minute, you have your compass. We are not gathered to polish ideas, to admire a phrase as if it were a jewel in a museum case. We are here to let one word awaken and live us. I and my Father are one, not two, not near, not hoping to be one. That sentence, rightly received, will carry a life. It carried the Master through a ministry. It will carry you through Mondays and midnights, through board meetings and sick rooms, through a child's cry and an old man's silence. But it will not carry you as a souvenir. It carries as a realized truth. So let us be very clear at the outset. Never be concerned about numbers, about seats filled, or pages written, or bank books fat or thin. You cannot have a greater degree of success than your own developed state of consciousness. Do you see that? You can't drive an automobile any better than your consciousness of driving. You can't be a better salesman than your consciousness of service and value. And you cannot be a better teacher, healer, mother, artist, or friend than your consciousness of the one that lives you. All the rest is amplification and echo. When you put the raisins into the dough, you don't have to pray for raisin bread. It is inevitable. So it is that when you abide in oneness, when you let this word sink in until it breathes you, fruitage will appear of itself. We will make this simple, and we will keep it practical. There will be no strain and no showmanship here. The Father within doeth the works. I can of mine own self do nothing, and if I speak of myself, I bear witness to a lie. Our work is not to make something happen. Our work is to rest in the truth until the truth makes of this day what it wills. Man shall not live by bread alone, but by every word that proceedeth out of the mouth of God. We will take that literally and tenderly, as bread and as wine and as water. By the close, we will sit together in the quiet, and we will taste. Perhaps you have come with questions about health, about supply, about purpose. The world is full of questions, and, blessed, it is seeking answers. But listen, before any answer appears out here, there is an answer that must be realized in here. We move gently and firmly from knowing about to knowing within. The letter is the doorway. The spirit is the home. You may know every verse of scripture and still be hungry. But take one word. I and the Father are one. Take it not as doctrine, but as daily food, and you will find it multiplying like loaves and fishes. One truth, faithfully tended, shows up as rent paid, as fever cooled, as fear quieted, as new work, as old friendship restored. And you will smile, not at your cleverness, but at the simplicity. The seed contained the forest all along. I would like us to begin this hour with an agreement, an inner handshake, that we are not here to get God to do something. God is. God is the life of your life, the mind of your mind, the substance of your very being. Our practice then is not persuasion, it is perception. It is remembrance. Be still and know that I am God. Be still and notice that you are not separate, not outside trying to get in, not a beggar before a reluctant throne. If the vine and the branch are one life, the sap is already flowing. You don't have to pump it up with affirmations. You rest and you witness. Now, well, some of you are sitting here counting, and I don't mean numbers on a sheet. I mean you're counting up reasons why this may not work for you. You've tried churches and classes and books, and still something nags. Let us put down the ledger. Never be concerned about numbers. Put your attention where fruitage is born, in your own developed state of consciousness. This is not a scolding. This is a relief. It means you can stop policing the horizon for results and tend the spring at its source. If you will do that, success will follow you like a well-trained dog. If you won't, success will tease you and run. Seek ye first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these things shall be added unto you. Do you hear the order? So I am promising you something very old and very new. Old, because the Word was in the beginning. New, because each dawn it must be born in you again. We will not chase experiences. We will cultivate consciousness. I will give you gentle instruction, yes, and I will share some lived examples, because the world wants to know if this bread can be eaten. But even while I speak, remember, words about God cannot feed you. The living word within you is your food. That is why, as we go along, we will turn inward and listen for that still, small voice. It is there. It always has been there. When you hear it, you will recognize it as your own life speaking you. And so that you may relax right at the start, let me tell you, you can't miss if you practice. You can't. You may wobble. You may feel nothing at first. You may even feel the old fears rise to test whether you will return to them. But if you will abide and abide and abide 5 minutes, 10 minutes, several times a day, the onion skins of habit will peel so thin, so quietly, that only after a while will you notice half of them are gone. You'll wake one morning and hear your own thoughts say, almost surprised, I and the Father are one. And you will realize it wasn't you pushing the thought. It was the thought possessing you. That moment is the hinge of a life. Let us then begin as one circle, you in the back row and you across the sea. We are not two gatherings. There is one body and one spirit, and the distances we count with miles and time zones are, in spirit, as nothing. If this word can carry 10,000 miles, it can carry the inch from head to heart. And that is all we are about in these hours, the inch that changes the world. By the end of our time today, we will rest together, not with effort, not with strain, but in a quiet that knows. And from that quiet, the Father within will do what the Father always does. He will bear witness to himself as harmony. That harmony, which I call fruitage, will be your simplest sermon to your family and to your town. For now, take a breath. Let the shoulders drop, and hear within you, if only as a whisper, if only as a wish, I and my Father are one. Keep it. We are here not to admire it, but to abide in it. And as we abide, life will begin to look very much like God. Now, if we are to let that inch from head to heart be our great journey, we must change our way of measuring the trip. Out in the world, they count heads, they count dollars, they count likes and letters after names. And then, when the counting looks low, they panic. When it looks high, they grow proud. And neither condition has anything to do with God. Let us be finished with the ledger. Our measure is not how many, how much, how far. Our measures how deep, how clear, how still. Do you see that? You cannot have a greater degree of success than your own developed state of consciousness. All the rest is shadow play. Now I know this is a relief if you will let it be. It means you can stop trying to shovel clouds and begin tending the little spring that becomes a river. You can't drive an automobile any better than your consciousness of driving. You can't be a better salesman than your consciousness of service and integrity. You can't be a better teacher than your consciousness of the truth you are teaching. You can't be a better healer than your consciousness of God as the life of all life. And so it is that when we find ourselves fumbling the wheel, it is not more mileage we need, but more awareness of the road. When our work feels like pushing a stone uphill, it is not a bigger lever we need, but a lighter touch of spirit. If you have ever watched a novice at the piano, you know the picture. Tight shoulders, counting beats with the jaw, trying to force the music out. It isn't the score that's at fault. It is the consciousness at the keys. And yet, let a seasoned artist sit down not because of genius alone, but because of years of quiet practice, and the same notes become bread and wine and water. The difference is not in the paper. It is in the realized music. Man shall not live by bread alone, but by every word that proceedeth out of the mouth of God. Translate that today. You will not live by figures alone, nor by audience size, nor by headlines. You will live by the word that becomes music in you. So, don't be concerned if the room is small. Don't be worried if the day looks ordinary. The Master did not say, "Bring me 5,000 perfectly receptive souls, and then we shall consider feeding them." He looked at what was at hand, 5 loaves and 2 fishes, and by a consciousness of sufficiency, not by arithmetic, the multitude were fed. Here is the law of inversion at work. The moment you release your clutch on results, the inner word begins to ripen of its own accord into visible harmony, not by might nor by power, but by my spirit, saith the Lord. Do you feel the turn? The less you strive, the more the Father within can do his natural work. I had once a Wednesday when 3 people came, a little room, a rainy evening, a draft that would have blown the notes off the table if we had been using notes. Outwardly, you would have said, well, Joel, better luck next time. But do you know that quiet hour flowered into 2 healings and work that reached a continent? How? The same way raisin bread becomes raisin bread. If the raisins are there, you do not require a crowd to make it raisin bread. If the consciousness is there, fruitage follows. If it is not there, 10,000 years will only magnify the emptiness. Never be concerned about numbers. Attend to consciousness. You can't miss if you practice. Now, you may ask, am I to have no goals at all? Am I to sit and do nothing? Be careful that you hear me correctly. We are not advocating idleness. We are announcing order. Seek ye first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these things shall be added unto you. First means first. There is work to do, yes, but the first work is within. Outward activity divorced from inner realization is like hammering without a nail. You can bruise your thumb and make a lot of noise, but you won't hang the picture. Sit down, get quiet, abide in the word. Then, whatever action naturally arises will carry the life of it. Be still and know that I am God. Out of that knowing, steps appear, calls are made, doors open without being kicked. This is why you can lay down the strain today. The world teaches you to obsess about outcomes, numbers, rank, speed. The kingdom invites you to attend to tone, peace, love, clarity. In the material state of consciousness, you squeeze the branch and wonder why no grapes appear. In the spiritual state of consciousness, you rest in the vine and discover the sap will not be hurried and will not be stopped. I am the vine, ye are the branches. If the vine and the branch are one life, do you see how futile it is to strain? I can of mine own self do nothing, said the Master. The Father that dwelleth in me, he doeth the works. Make that your confession and your comfort. The works belong to the Father within. There is a lovely paradox here. As you stop bargaining with life for results, results begin to present themselves sometimes in the very places you had given up expecting them. It is as if the fruit, tired of being commanded, comes forward when it is respected. A farmer does not stand in the field yelling at his wheat. He prepares the soil, plants, waters, watches the sky, and trusts the law of life. So it is with you. Prepare the inner ground with quiet. Plant the word. I and my Father are one. Water it with remembrance. Then let the season be the season. You will find, to your surprise and delight, that your Father knoweth what things ye have need of before ye ask him, and that needs met without strain carry a sweetness that toil cannot purchase. Let me give you a threefold picture to carry into the week. You can't drive beyond your consciousness of driving. Therefore, drive in peace. You can't sell beyond your consciousness of serving. Therefore, serve in love. You can't heal beyond your consciousness of God. Therefore, know God. Do not tack results onto the back of these sentences. Let them be whole. If you abide in peace, love, and God knowing, the road will feel different under your hands. The customer will sense a presence they cannot name. The body of the home will reflect a harmony that proves itself. This is what I mean by fruitage. The world is seeking the fruitage. And you will answer, not with pride, but with truth. The Father within me doeth the works. Take no thought for your life, what ye shall eat, or what ye shall drink, but seek ye first the kingdom. Take no thought does not mean take no step. It means take no anxious, calculating thought that tries to steal the Father's office. Let us return all doing to its rightful owner. Our single assignment is to abide. If we will abide, the inner spirit will govern the sequence and the speed of outward good. And please remember, you don't have to feel holy to do this. 5 minutes at a time, several times a day, the onion skins will fall. So thin, so quiet. One day, perhaps while washing a cup or waiting at a light, you will notice a tone within steady, unpushed, and you will realize that the word has taken root. So let us be reoriented from counting heads to cultivating consciousness, from sweat to stillness, from demands to devotion. The way is not heroic. It is faithful, it is ordinary, and it is extraordinary all at once. Abide in this. I and my Father are one. Keep it near, at morning, at noon, at night. Whisper it without bargaining. Let it be your bread and your wine and your water. And while you rest in it, allow this to be your cheerful refrain whenever temptation to push or panic arises. I can of mine own self do nothing. The Father within me doeth the works. If you will let that be the government upon your shoulder, the fruitage will take care of itself, and it will be enough, and it will be multiplied, and it will be God's. Now we let the sentence itself speak. not as an ornament, not as a slogan on a wall, but as bread taken into the mouth of the heart. I and my Father are one, John 10:30. Hear the cadence, the old music of it, because in that music is the memory of your own life. Again, slowly. I and my Father are one. Do not think it yet. Let it sound. And then, as if the same voice were adding the necessary humility, hear this one alongside it. I can of mine own self do nothing, John 5:30. And to round it, to make sure we know what agency is here, the Father that dwelleth in me, he doeth the works, John 14:10. Now you have the circle. Oneness, nothing of myself, the indwelling Father doing the works. If you will abide in that circle, fear will have nothing to feed upon. The mistake, and we have all made it, is to take that first word, I, to mean a little bundle of history and habits and hopes. My name, my resume, my moods. But that I in the Master's mouth is not a private person. It is the Christ identity, the awareness in which separation is unknown. It is not I, Jesus of Nazareth, son of Joseph the carpenter. It is I, the light of the world, the vine, the way, the truth, and the life. When you hear, I and my Father are one, hear it as your true I, speaking your life as God life, your mind as God mind, your being as God being. Otherwise, you will spend your days standing on one side of a counter, bargaining with a distant deity, and you will wear yourself thin with negotiations that never needed to occur. There are not two to negotiate. There is one to be. So, do you see how this melts the strain? If I am two, then every morning I must climb a hill to get God to smile. If I am one, then every morning is remembering that the smile is the nature of the one. If I am two, then work is mine and help is his. And I must whistle and shout to get him down into my mess. If I am one, then the Father that dwelleth in me, he doeth the works. And the pressure of outcomes lifts off of the branch because the sap belongs to the vine. I am the vine, ye are the branches. John 15:5. To a branch, there is only one law. Remain. Now let us make this practical, because otherwise it remains poetry, and poetry does not pay the rent unless it is breathed into bread. Take a quiet breath with me. As you inhale, within yourself, whisper, I and my Father. And as you exhale, are one. No push, no trying to make something happen. Again, inhale, I and my Father. Exhale, are one. Keep it up, slowly. And while you do, notice if only a hair's breadth, the loosening around the shoulders, the forehead. That loosening is not mood. It is the burden shifting to its rightful bearer. Cast thy burden upon the Lord, and he shall sustain thee. Psalm 55-22. The Lord you are casting it upon is not out in the clouds. He is the Father that dwelleth in you, doing the works. This is not idleness. This is order. We spoke earlier of raisin bread, and, well, the kitchen still teaches us if the raisins are truly in the dough, you don't have to paste them to the outside come baking time. Oneness is not a decoration we glue to our day. It is the ingredient of the day. If the ingredient is there, it will declare itself as texture and taste. So, as you breathe that sentence, don't add a dozen more truths to fatten your loaf. One truth realized is infinite because the source is infinite. The master did not carry a bag of tricks. He carried a realized oneness. The Father that dwelleth in me, he doeth the works that carried him through Nazareth and Samaria and storm and cross. And let me say with a smile, it will carry you through Tuesday at 2:00 when the phone rings and the voice on the other end is asking for something you do not know how to give. You will find that you do not need to know how, only who. The who is the Father within. I had a letter once from a bookkeeper in Pretoria. Now, don't make a religion of the postmark. It could have been Poughkeepsie, who said her hands would tremble each month end. Figures swimming, deadlines pressing, all the old tunus shouting, you must pull this off alone, and if you don't, you're finished. She began to practice that little breath. I and my Father are one. 10 seconds at her desk before she touched the ledger. She reported that the first day, nothing marvelous occurred except a softening. The second day, she noticed that one column which always tripped her fell into place of itself. The third week, the manager asked, what are you doing? You look different. She had no theory to give him. She had bread, fruitage followed, errors dwindled, hours shortened. A new ease in her home life appeared because, you see, the law of oneness does not stop at a desk. It multiplies like loaves and fishes into any shape needed. And please notice, in her experience and in yours, how the sting goes out of fear when the center moves from the person to the presence. I can of mine own self do nothing. That is not defeatist. That is freedom. That is the end of the small self's pretense to be God, and it is the beginning of God being God as you. When the mind protests, but I must think this out, let it be answered with, man shall not live by bread alone, but by every word that proceedeth out of the mouth of God. Matthew 4:4. Thought has a place. It arranges the chairs. The word feeds the crowd. And when the word becomes your bread, your wine, and your water, there is a steadiness that does not depend upon conditions. Storm or sun, the Father within abides, and abiding does the works. Now, this is the point at which a clever student will say, but don't we need more than one idea to meet the variety of our needs? No, dear one. The variety is on the surface. The sufficiency is in the root. A single spring can become a stream, a river, a waterfall, a quiet lake, a glass of water, a kettle for tea. The forms multiply. The water is one. I and my Father are one, is water. Health, supply, companionship, guidance. These are shapes the water takes when it meets the receptacle of your day. Do not run around collecting buckets. Dig the well. Keep to the one realized truth and let it present itself as the forms required. You cannot have a greater degree of success than your developed state of consciousness. And consciousness is not a library. It is a life. But do keep this safeguard. The I you feed is not your personality. If you feed the small I with this sentence, you will inflate a balloon and call it spirituality. If you feed the true I, the Christ awareness, that quietly knows without boasting, something else happens. Self-importance thins, gentleness grows, and help becomes natural. If I bear witness of myself, my witness is not true. John 5:31. Therefore, let the sentence turn you away from the mirror and into the inner room where the Father is, and shut the door and pray to thy Father which is in secret. Matthew 6:6. In that secrecy, the word becomes flesh without your advertising. So we return to the simplest practice. Sit down on a bench, at a stoplight, on the edge of a bed, and give half a minute to the sentence. Breathe it. Don't bargain with it. Don't say, if I repeat you 10 times, will you pay my bill? Say it because it is truth. Say it because it is your life speaking. And then leave a little space inside for the answering hush. Often, very often, in that hush, another word will come of its own accord. Fear thou not, for I am with thee. Isaiah 41:10. Or my grace is sufficient for thee, 2 Corinthians 12:9. And you will know the storehouse is within. Keep it up until the sentence is no longer something you visit, but something that walks with you to the market and sits with you at the table and goes to sleep in your chest. Then, without your planning, visible harmony begins to appear, not as pyrotechnics, but as sufficiency. Enough wisdom for the call, enough strength for the day, enough love to spare. That is fruitage. And so it is that one realized truth carries both a ministry and a Monday morning. Do you see how kind God is to make it so simple? We are not left to juggle 100 doctrines. We are asked to abide in one life. Abide in it. And all these things shall be added unto you. Matthew 6:33. Leave it, and the old arithmetic returns with its panic and its pride. Choose then to eat the bread that does not stale. I and my Father are one. Take it now, take it later, take it when the mind says it is too busy to eat. It will nourish you in the way only living bread can. And with that nourishment, the Father within will do what he always does. He will bear witness to himself as harmony. And that harmony, quietly, sweetly, will tell the world where the bread is. You and I will not have to sell it. We will simply be it. Before we go any farther, let us bring into our circle a safeguard the Master himself gave. Because, well, you know, once a little light begins to show, a great many lights come dancing around it trying to sell you bulbs. Howbeit when he, the Spirit of truth, is come, he will guide you into all truth. John 16:13. There are two readings of that sentence, and both are your protection. The first is outward and practical. Any teacher, any book, any method worthy of your time will not glorify itself. It will point you back to the inner teacher. The second is inward and holy. The guidance you seek is not in a voice out here with a louder microphone. It is in the Spirit of truth that already abides within you, and that Spirit will guide you into all truth as you grow quiet enough to hear it. Now, let us stay with the outward reading for a moment, because it will save you from a world of detours. Jesus gave us an unmistakable standard. If I bear witness of myself, my witness is not true. John 5:31. And again, for the positive phrasing of it, the Father that dwelleth in me, he doeth the works. John 14:10. So here is your first test. Listen to the tone of any teaching that comes your way, mine included. Does it send you home to your inner room to shut the door and pray to the Father which is in secret, Matthew 6:6? Does it return you to I and my Father are one, to the stillness where the works are done? Or does it, however charming the smile and however handsome the brochure, leave you worshiping a personality, a number, a technique? If it points to itself, it is pointing you away from your life. If it points to the indwelling Father, it is a finger worth watching until you can do without the finger. I have watched here and there and across oceans a certain pattern repeat itself. A gifted personality appears. Wonderful stories circulate. Rooms fill. Testimonials stack up like loaves. And then because the law is the law, if the root is in personality and not in presence, the fruitage grows thin and bitter. People come seeking God and go away with autographs. Do you see the sadness in that? The world is not hungry for our names. It is hungry for bread. And bread in this life is always the word realized within. Therefore, test us. Test me. If at the end of an hour you are more in love with a man on a platform than with the Christ in your own heart, throw the hour away and do not pay for it with your devotion. Call no man your father upon the earth, for one is your Father which is in heaven. Matthew 23-9. A true teacher will be relieved to be forgotten, provided you remember the inner teacher. Now to the inner reading, which is the heart of the matter. When he, the Spirit of truth, is come, he will guide you into all truth. He has come. He did not travel 10,000 miles to arrive on your doorstep. He awakened the moment you turned within. In the quiet, in that little pause between I and my Father and our one, there is a tone, sometimes scarcely more than a whisper, sometimes no voice at all, but a peace that says, "This is the way, walk ye in it." Isaiah 30-21. That peace is a guide. That hush is authority. In it you will notice a discrimination that is not critical but clear. This thought has light on it. That one is a shadow. This impulse carries love. That one carries hurry and fear. And gently you find yourself being led without being driven, instructed without being flattered, corrected without being shamed. My sheep hear my voice, and I know them, and they follow me. John 10:27. Let me give you the two tests as you might carry them in your pocket. First, the outward test. Does this message, this teacher, this method throw me back upon the inner kingdom or fix my gaze on a shadow? If it glorifies a person, a number, a technique, a brand, it will, in the end, leave you poorer, for it is selling reflections. If it says, again and again, the Father within you doeth the works, you are safe to sit and listen until you no longer need the chair. Second, the inward test. After contact with any message, after a period of contemplation, what is the fruit in your own consciousness? If you find a growing humility, a deeper peace, a light touch in the nerves, and a natural turning within for authority, you have touched the Spirit of truth. If you find agitation, hero worship, spiritual ambition swelling the chest, or anxiety to collect more methods, you have brushed a personality. Beloved, believe not every spirit, but try the spirits whether they are of God. 1 John 4:1. One evening, a gentleman came quite aflame with a new system, charts and steps and vocabulary enough to require a glossary. It works, he said. It really worked. We had 108 last Thursday. I answered him as kindly as I knew how. Dear friend, numbers are as the weather. They change with the wind. Tell me, when you put your head on the pillow, did peace rise up to meet you? Did you feel the arm underneath everlasting? Did the thought come unbidden? I can of mine own self do nothing. The Father within me doeth the works. He grew quiet, and in that quiet, the Spirit of truth did more in a minute than all our talking had done. The next week he came back without the charts and with a look in the eyes that needed no advertisement. That is the fruit of right testing. Please notice how gentle these tests are. We are not setting up tribunals. We are learning to notice tone. The Spirit of truth does not shout for attention like a carnival barker. He broods, as at the beginning, over the face of the deep, until form appears of itself. When you have tasted that, personality grows tasteless, you won't despise it. You will simply be uninterested. Why chase reflected light when the sun is rising inside your own chest? Why make a hero out of the branch when the sap is the story? The kingdom of God is within you, Luke 17:21. And you see, the more faithfully you give credit where it belongs, the more the Father within bears witness to himself as harmony, and the less you find yourself tempted by the old allurements, numbers, applause, cleverness. You will find a lovely side effect of these two tests. As humility grows, authority grows, not the authority of loud claims, but the authority of quiet fruit. People will notice a steadiness in you, a simplicity. And without your trying to recruit them to anything, they will ask, "Where did you get this bread?" And you will answer in the only way that keeps you safe and true. Man shall not live by bread alone, but by every word that proceedeth out of the mouth of God. Matthew 4:4. Not my words, not my method, not my personality, the word. You will point them home. And if they forget your name next week, but remember to sit still long enough to hear the inner guide, heaven will have applauded, though the papers did not. So let us agree among ourselves to be simple and to be true. Try every voice by the Master's standard. If it speaks of itself, it speaks a lie. If it returns you to the Father within, it speaks the truth. Look out and look in with these two tests, and you will be kept. Then, as we move on to the practice itself, you will not be practicing to impress a teacher or to gather merit badges. You will be turning again and again to the one teacher who never leaves, nor flatters, nor fails, the Spirit of truth. Abide there, and ye shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free, John 8:32. Free from hero worship and fear worship and number worship. Free to live as what you are, one with the Father within doing the works. You can't miss if you practice. Now let us make it as simple as taking your daily bread, because that is what this is, the bread and wine and water of your life. 3 times a day, and I do mean short periods, morning, sometime in the middle hours, and evening. Sit down and get quiet. Enter into thy closet, and when thou hast shut thy door, pray to thy Father which is in secret. Matthew 6:6. That is not a figure of speech. It is a practice. Shut the door of the senses for a few minutes. Let the telephone rest. Turn the page face down. Let the eyes close lightly. You are not going into a trance. You are opening a window. Bring a seed text with you. Just one. We have several that will serve, and they are enough for a lifetime. I and my Father are one. John 10:30. Or, if your day is reaching for things as if they were your life, man shall not live by bread alone, but by every word that proceedeth out of the mouth of God. Matthew 4:4. Or, if you feel scattered and rootless, abide in me and I in you, John 15:4. Any one of these will open the same door, because you see the door is within. Take your chosen word into your lap the way you would hold a child, without argument, without preaching, without petition. We are not telling God what to do. We are consenting to what God is. In the beginning, speak the seed softly within yourself, not as a chant to coerce, but as you might savor a raisin one at a time, tasting the sweetness that is already there. I and my Father are one. Then rest a moment. Again, I and my Father are one. Do not hurry on. Do not add 10 more lines to prove your piety. Keep it up until of its own accord. And this is the sign the thought stops being your thought about truth and becomes truth thinking itself. Sometimes when that happens, another passage will rise to meet the first. As surely as one note calls up its harmony. You may find the Father that dwelleth in me, he doeth the works, John 14:10. Coming of itself, or be still and know that I am God, Psalm 46:10. When it does, do not say, good, I got a second verse. Simply let it mingle with the first as water mingles with water. That is the beginning of the activity of the word. If nothing seems to come, do not be troubled. You are not being graded. You are being fed. Continue to hold the seed text lightly. And then, when you notice perhaps only for a breath the inner hush, stop the words. Rest there. Even 10 seconds of that living silence will nourish you as a full meal nourishes the body. That hush is not emptiness. That hush is presence. It is the Father in secret. In that pause, supply flows as rest and guidance flows, as a rightness that needs no argument. This is the way, walk ye in it. Isaiah 30-21 doesn't always come as syllables. It comes as a weightless yes. Now, because we are dealing with time and clocks, let me be practical. In the morning, before you take up the tools of the day, give 3 to 5 minutes to this. Sit up, feet on the floor, back easy, hands quiet, close the door, bring your seed, let it breathe you. At midday, yes. In an office, in a car parked for 2 minutes, in a laundry room at the hospital, take a minute or two to do the same. And in the evening, before sleep, turn again to the inner room. You are not trying to have a dramatic experience. You are attuning. A violinist does not argue the pitch into being. She takes the A and lets it set the strings. Your seed text is the A. The rest is resonance. The mind will, of course, try to get busy. It will say, now, while we are quiet, let's make a list of solutions. That is the moment to remember, I can of mine own self do nothing, John 5:30. Smile at the busy helper and return to the seed. If you find yourself petitioning, please, God, fix this, send that. Let the petition dissolve into the word itself. Abide in me is the answer to every. Please do. In abiding, the burden shifts from the branch to the vine. In abiding, the government returns to its rightful shoulder. You may notice a soft release in the chest, a longer outbreath. That, too, is fruit in consciousness. There is a small safeguard here, and it will save you hours. Do not measure the value of your period by fireworks. Measure it by the presence of quiet. If in 3 minutes you touch even a thin veil of stillness, you have eaten. You may rise with no new information in the head and yet carry a changed atmosphere in the heart. That atmosphere will do more before lunchtime than your cleverness would accomplish in a week, because it is the Father within doing the works. The letter readies the soil. The Spirit sows the seed and brings up the fruitage. End each period with gratitude. But please notice how, not as a device to get, not as a bargaining chip, I thank you, now give me mine, but as recognition. Thank you, Father, not because a condition has already arranged itself to your preference, but because reality is what it is and you are one with it. Gratitude of this kind is not flattery. It is truth-telling. It says, thine is the kingdom and the power and the glory. Matthew 6:13. It keeps the center where it belongs and keeps you simple. A whispered thank you is often the last dissolving of self-activity before the spirit of truth floods the room without a ripple. If you wish a simple frame to carry away, let it be this. 3 times a day, close the door, bring the seed, contemplate gently, rest in the hush, conclude with gratitude. Do you see how little there is to do? The little you do is your consent. The much that is done is God's. And, well, you know, if you should forget the midday period, or if the evening passes too quickly, do not scold. Return at the next hour. You can't miss if you practice. The results will not be made by your counting. They will be revealed by your abiding. The world will call the result guidance, supply, solution. We will call it what it is, the Word made flesh. One day you will notice, perhaps without remembering when it began, that the seed text is with you between periods. You will be washing a dish and hear, abide in me. You will be walking down an aisle of an ordinary market and feel the hush descend for a step or two, and with it a shade of wisdom about what to choose and what to leave. You will sit across from a troubled friend and, without reaching for a technique, find yourself quietly listening inside until the necessary word rises. Not clever, not rehearsed, but exactly right. That is the river beginning to run without your hand on the pump. Out of his belly shall flow rivers of living water. John 7:38. This is the normal life of one who consents to the inner life. So we keep to the simplicity that saves us. Oneness, quiet practice, self-effacement. We let the letter escort us to the living word, and then we are content to be still enough to be fed. In that stillness, the Father within does the works, and visible harmony becomes inevitable, not as something we chase, but as something that appears because of what we are. Seek ye first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these things shall be added unto you. Matthew 6:33. 3 short periods a day is not too great a price for such bread. Eat and be at peace. Now let us look together at what happens when the seed you have been placing so gently is not merely sounded, but is kneaded into the dough of your consciousness. The kitchen will help us again because, well, truth is homely. It lives in the ordinary as surely as it sings in the sanctuary. If you put the raisins in the dough, you won't have to decorate the loaf afterward. The sweetness will be integral. If you leave them out, you can paste them to the surface and call it raisin bread, but the first slice will betray you. So it is with I and my Father are one. John 10:30. If that word is in at the beginning of your day, in the mixing bowl, not on the label, by evening, the whole of the day will have its taste. There will be something in the texture of your seeing, in the feel of your step, that says, the Father that dwelleth in me, he doeth the works. John 14:10. If you wait until crisis to glue truth to the outside, the oven of life will melt it off and leave you with a plain loaf of panic. I watched a dear soul in Auckland. You could change the city and it wouldn't change the principal who kept her practice to a quiet 3 minutes before the office opened. No drama, no shop window holiness. Just the raisin going in. After 2 weeks, she remarked, almost surprised, there's a different flavor in the day. Nothing marvelous to report, she thought. But listen, errands lined up without friction. A conversation that had been sharp for months softened. A small check, long delayed, arrived without her calling twice. She wasn't adding raisins at noon. She had placed one truth in the dough at dawn. It flavored the whole. Now widen the lens to the hillside near Bethsaida. Late in the day, a crowd with empty baskets and the disciples doing the arithmetic. We have here but 5 loaves and 2 fishes. Matthew 14:17. That is the mind's inventory. The master who lived in realized oneness looked up to heaven and blessed and brake Matthew 14:19. He did not add to infinity. He recognized it. He didn't strain. He blessed. And the visible token, answered to blessing the way a seed answers to spring, and it multiplied beyond arithmetic. They did all eat and were filled, and they took up of the fragments 12 baskets full. Matthew 14:20. Do you see the rhythm? Recognition, blessing, breaking, distributing. In your room, when you take one truth and bless it with your consent, it becomes bread for 100 needs. The supply your ledger calls for, the wisdom your children call for, the calm your nerves call for, they are all fed from one realized principle. A mother in Lisbon wrote that she had no time for long devotions, not with 3 little ones and a husband sailing in and out like the tide. I do only what you say, she wrote. In the morning a minute, at noon a minute, at night a minute. And then she added the strange glory of it. I do not know how, but the minutes stretch into the day. That is loaves and fishes. A little realization, blessed, broken into the commonplace. And the commonplace becomes more than enough. When at dusk she put her head down, there was something like the shepherd's staff by her pillow. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. Psalm 23:1. Not because she had arranged the world, but because she had recognized the source. Fear not, little flock, for it is your Father's good pleasure to give you the kingdom. Luke 12:32. The kingdom arrives in minutes and appears as hours. Please keep this in mind, so you are not led astray by variety. It will look out here as if you are meeting different needs. One day it seems to be the body, the next day the bank account, the day after a relationship. And the busy mind goes shopping for truths the way shoppers go from stall to stall in a market. This one for the liver, that one for rent, this one for romance. There are not many truths. There is one truth with many faces, and the faces appear according to demand. Health is what the oneness of life looks like when it takes the shape of your body. Supply is what the oneness of substance looks like when it takes the shape of a bill paid, a project funded, a pantry filled. Guidance is what the oneness of mind looks like when it takes the shape of a decision. Companionship is what the oneness of love looks like when it takes the shape of a hand in yours at the right hour. The water is one, the cups are many. And as this living water moves, do notice how the old fears, the old separations fall away almost imperceptibly. You will not, in most cases, have a trumpet blast deliverance. You will wake one Thursday and realize that a dread you trained like a faithful dog has not followed you for 3 days. It is as if an onion has lost a few of its skins, so thin, so papery, that you did not mark the peeling. Only after half of them are gone do you say, "Ah, lighter." The thought that once rushed in to count heads, to count dollars, to count diagnoses, now arrives tardy and without authority. Why? Because perfect love casteth out fear. 1 John 4:18. And love in this language is not emotion. It is the felt oneness that leaves nothing outside to be afraid of. Keep kneading the one sentence into your day, and you will find there is less and less for fear to grab. Now, do not let that encourage you to strain. You cannot add to infinity with spiritual calisthenics. You can only recognize it and let it appear as what is needed. My grace is sufficient for thee, 2 Corinthians 12-9. Sufficient, not as a barely enough ration, but as a fullness that meets you precisely where you are. When the mind rushes to fatten the loaf with extra assertions to guarantee a result, smile and return to blessing. I can of mine own self do nothing. As I hear, I judge. John 5:30. Hear, bless, break, distribute. That is the Christly economy, and it is quiet. It is never impressed with itself. I remember standing one afternoon in Stockholm, yes, it could have been Sydney, and noticing how the same word, practiced in Maui on a rainy morning, bore the same fruit in a snow-lit room 6,000 miles away. The geography changed. The grace did not. A businessman there confessed, I thought this oneness would make me mystical and useless. He grinned. Instead, I have become simple and more useful than ever. He had stopped adding to infinity with worry and had begun to recognize it with willingness. The result? He listened inside before he spoke outside, and deals arranged themselves as if all parties were kinder versions of themselves. One truth, one loaf, many slices. Let me underline it for you so you have it to take home. One realized principle, tended faithfully, multiplies itself into every needed form. You do not need to gather more truths than you can carry. Put the raisin in, bless the little. Let the Father within do the arithmetic. Accept that the peeling of fear will be gentle and often unnoticed until the heap on the floor tells you what has happened. And then watch, without boasting, as the day tastes of God. Seek ye first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these things shall be added unto you. Matthew 6:33. Added, not grabbed. Given, not wrestled for. You keep to your minute of recognition. The multiplication takes care of itself. And, well, you can't miss if you practice. And now, because the world is very practical and, well, God is not allergic to practicality. Let us speak of fruitage, the visible harmony that does not shout, look at me, but quietly says, taste and see that the Lord is good. Psalm 34:8. People come to us not because they have awakened this morning saying, oh, I want to know God for God's sake, but because there is a pain to be eased, a bill to be paid, a child to be calmed, a loneliness to be companioned. That is all right. Do not make them wrong for that. The Master did not. He met them at the point of their hunger, and then gently led them past the bread to the bread giver. By their fruits ye shall know them. Matthew 7:20. The fruit is the knock on the door. The source is the home. A young mother, not 3 miles from here, though it could as well have been Cape Town or Copenhagen, phoned one afternoon with the voice that has slept little and worried much. The child's fever had been stubborn. The remedies had been many. The hours had stretched like rubber. Can you do something? She asked. And, you see, if I said, yes, I can, I would already be off the track. I can of mine own self do nothing. As I hear, I judge. John 5:30. So I ask her to put the receiver down on the table for a minute and to sit right where she was with I and my Father are one, John 10:30. I did the same. No petitions, no wrestling, just the hush and the word. In less than 5 minutes, there was a change of atmosphere, as if a room that had been shut had found its window. She picked up the phone and whispered, he's fallen asleep. We said, thank you, Father. And when she called again at dusk, it was with the natural voice of evening work and no drama. Now, listen carefully. The point of the story is not the fever dropping. It is the method of credit giving. The Father within did the works. The visible harmony appeared as fruitage of realized oneness. In business, it is the same. A man with ledgers that looked like a winter field came and said, I have tried every device, every plan. Could we treat for supply? We smiled together because, the word treat has made many a promising garden of water a forest of weeds. So we did not treat for supply. We turned together in a quiet room and recognized the one. Substance, the one life. The earth is the Lord's, and the fullness thereof. Psalm 24:1. We sat with that, and then with the sentence we have been using, I and the Father are one. We did that for 3 minutes and went our ways. In the week that followed, 2 accounts that had been still as stone moved. One paid in full. The other arranged a schedule before he could make the call to prod them. A small order, out of season, arrived enough to ease the strain. Was that a miracle? No more than sunlight is a miracle to seeds buried in a thawing field. Fruitage. The practical sermon that says to the one who witnesses it, ask not for my technique, ask for the source. And so when he returned with gratitude, the gratitude was turned immediately where it belongs. Not unto us, O Lord, not unto us, but unto thy name give glory. Psalm 115:1. Then he was shown the same door we have shown you 3 times a day. The inner room, the seed text, the hush, reconciliations too come as fruitage. 2 brothers, both good men and stubborn, yes, those 2 do sometimes ride the same horse, had not spoken for nearly 3 years. The older came one evening troubled, though not yet humbled, and asked if we could reason his case. We did not. We do not reason men into love. We let love reveal itself. We sat quietly with, forgive us our debts as we forgive our debtors, Matthew 6:12. But we did not analyze the equities of the quarrel. We added, I and the Father are one, and then, because the Spirit often brings the right harmony note, leave there thy gift before the altar and go thy way. First be reconciled, Matthew 5:24. We held silence. He said nothing. The next afternoon a call came, the first in 3 years. No eloquence, only, are you home? I'll be by at 5. They did not resolve the history. They shared coffee and laughter like men who had remembered there was something truer than being right. Fruitage, the world calls it coincidence. The student recognizes the government returned to its rightful shoulder. Please notice how these events function as sermon without words. We are not out to sell a system, to ring bells for a crowd. We are content to let harmony appear, and then, if asked, to point past our names, past our books, past our cleverness to the indwelling Father. Let your light so shine before men, that they may see your good works and glorify your Father which is in heaven. Matthew 5:16. Not glorify the worker, glorify the Father. A letter arrives months later from a woman whose panic used to rise at 4 a.m. like a uniformed guard. I did what you said, she wrote. A minute here, a minute there, with I and my Father are one. One morning I woke at 4, and there was nothing to fear, only quiet. Why did no one tell me it could be so simple? That is evangel. The good news is not that we have found the charismatic salesman. The good news is that the kingdom of God is within, and it answers to those who turn. So when people come, meet them where they are. If they come for pain, sit with them until the pain is swallowed up. If they come for money, sit with them until the fear of lack loosens its teeth. If they come for companionship, sit with them until the loneliness thaws in the presence. And then, before they make a shrine to the chair you were sitting in, Hand them the key they can carry into their own kitchen, their own office, their own midnight. Show them the channel. Enter thy closet. Pray to thy Father which is in secret. Matthew 6:6. Give them one seed text and the simple rhythm, contemplate, hush, gratitude. Do not let them make disciples of you. Make instead lovers of the inner teacher. If they say, oh, but you have a gift, answer with the Master's protection. If I bear witness of myself, my witness is not true. John 5:31. The Spirit of truth is the gift, and he is impartial. You will find, as this goes on, that you are less and less inclined to argue doctrine, to collect converts, to defend positions. Why would you, when fruitage does the talking, a neighbor who has watched you slip out to the car for 2 minutes at midday will come one afternoon to ask, not to debate, but to ask, where did the noise go? What did you do? You will say, I did not do. I consented. I and my Father are one. Sit with me and try it. The world is seeking the fruitage. Show it. And then, with the gentleness of one who knows the source, turn their eyes from the bread to the baker. The living word will make its own case, and the case it makes is peace. Let us be satisfied to live as witnesses. A witness does not embellish. A witness reports. We report harmony, health, and holiness in supply as the natural outflow of realized oneness. We take no bows. We take no credit. We pass the bread and say, thank you, Father. And if someone asks where to buy it, we point to the inner oven that is already warm in them. That is how the world learns God, not from argument, from fruit. And so it is. As you keep this simple practice, the sermon of your life will be this: God is. I am one with God. The Father within doeth the works. Then the rest, all the rest will take care of itself. You can't miss if you practice. Now let us bring this right down to the turn of the doorknob and the ring of the telephone, the daily shift by which we stop living from lack thought and begin abiding as sufficiency being. Remember, all we have been saying comes to this: man shall not live by bread alone, but by every word that proceedeth out of the mouth of God. Matthew 4:4. A material state of consciousness lives by bread alone, by externals, by numbers, by climate and calendars, and fluctuating reports. A spiritual state of consciousness lives by the word, by the inner recognition, by the hush, by the realized presence that takes form outwardly as safety and security and peace on earth. Do you see that? The outside changes because the inside abides. In a material state of consciousness, the bill on the desk is master and you are servant. The clock becomes a tyrant. The figure at the bottom of the page decides whether you sing or sigh. In a spiritual state, the same paper and the same due date are present, but they are not source, they are appearance. Source is invisible, and it is one with you. I and my Father are one. John is not a religious slogan. It is a statement of supply. It means the very life that breathes you is the substance that feeds you. The very mind that knows itself as infinite order is the wisdom that orders your affairs. Our work is not to deny the paper, but to deny its authority, to return authority to the Father within, who doeth the works, John 14:10. Then the paper becomes a place where the word makes flesh in right form, ideas, right contacts, calm, intelligent action. So take 3 everyday pivots, and let's practice. The first, a bill is due. The material mind leaps to fretting, to planning, to borrowing tomorrow's peace. Don't scold it, smile at it. Then, before you pick up the phone or open the banking page, take one conscious breath with your seed text. One breath. I and my Father are one. Pause. The earth is the Lord's, and the fullness thereof. Psalm 24:1. Be still for the length of an exhale. Then do the next simple right thing that presents itself. It may be obvious. A call to clarify terms. A note of gratitude attached to an invoice. A small reordering of priorities. It may be subtler. An idea that shortens the distance between you and completion. The memory of a person to contact. The willingness to finish a task that opens the door to the check already waiting. Watch the word become flesh as sufficiency, not merely as cash, though that too comes, but as ideas, right contacts, and calm, efficient activity. That is the government resting again upon his shoulder. The second pivot, a diagnosis is given. The material state of consciousness rushes to identify you with a name, a number, a label, and to make history your destiny. Quiet now. We are not setting ourselves against the world. We are setting ourselves for God. Take one conscious breath with your seed text. Be still and know that I am God. Psalm 46:10. Then I can of mine own self do nothing. John 5:30. Not even fear successfully. The Father within me, he doeth the works. Rest 10 seconds in that. You have returned identity to its home. You are not an abandoned twig. I am the vine, ye are the branches. John 15:5. Vine life lives as the branch. Let that realization soak a moment. Then do, peacefully, whatever appears as the next right step. Keep your appointment, read the report if needed, follow sound counsel that arises, but do it with the consciousness that life, your very life, is God. The fruitage that follows may come as resilience in the night watches, as wise choices that simplify your path, as strength in the place you thought you had none, as the felt presence that renders fear irrelevant. The Lord is the strength of my life. Of whom shall I be afraid? Psalm 27:1. This is sufficiency appearing as health, not bravado, not denial, but the oneness of life expressing itself. The third pivot, loneliness steals in like a draft under the door. The material sense says, you are without. The spiritual sense answers, I will not leave you comfortless. I will come to you, John 14:18. Breathe once with the seed. Lo, I am with you always. Matthew 28:20. Sit with that a minute, or half a minute, or the time it takes the kettle to steam. Then watch what the word looks like when it wears the form of companionship. Sometimes it is an ease in being alone that is not isolation. Sometimes it is a prompting to write a letter. Sometimes, and this is common enough to be called ordinary miracle, it is a knock at the door or a name in your mind and a shared cup an hour later. The presence has many ways of showing its face. Your task is not to invent them. Your task is to return to oneness and let love do what love is. All of this is identity language. You are not a needy branch struggling to latch onto a reluctant vine. You abide as the branch through which the vine life is already coursing, safety, security, and peace. In him we live and move and have our being. Acts 17:28. So this day, gently move from the thought I must get into the awareness I am in, from I lack to I am lived, from out there to within. It is a simple shift, but it changes the government of your minutes. Even your posture often changes. The chest eases, the breath lengthens, the forehead smooths, as if the body itself is relieved to have the burden moved to where it belongs. Let me give you small hinges that swing big doors. Before calls, one breath with I and my Father are one. Before meals, one breath with thank you, Father. Man shall not live by bread alone. Matthew 4:4. Let the food become a sacrament of the inner word. Before meetings, one breath with the Father within me, he doeth the works. Before sending an email, before starting the car, before opening the ledger, one breath. And at night, just as the light goes out, the Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. Psalm 23:1. These are seconds, not hours, but they change the climate in which your hours unfold. You are not adding raisins to the crust after baking. You are putting the raisin of realized truth in the dough. At every stage, the flavor becomes inevitable. As you keep to these micro practices, look not anxiously, but alertly for the Word made flesh. Sufficiency will show itself in three chief ways. First, as ideas, a path you had not seen, a simplification, a phrase that mends a misunderstanding, a design that saves expense, the courage to say no. Second, as right contacts, a person appears whom you could not have scheduled. An introduction ripens. A gate that had creaked for months swings free with a touch. Third, as calm action, you find your hands doing the next thing without argument, timely, efficient, gentle. It will rarely be accompanied by symbols. It will sound like normal life retuned. This is the way. Walk ye in it. Isaiah 30:21. Will not always speak in syllables. It will move you like a wind you feel on your face. Please never forget where the credit goes. Not to your breath, not to your method, not to me or to any book. Not unto us, O Lord, not unto us, but unto thy name give glory. Psalm 115:1. If you can remember that, you will remain simple and safe. Sufficiency is not something we chase in the market of effects. Sufficiency is an identity we abide as in the kingdom within. Abide there, softly, steadily. Return 100 times a day if needed. One breath will do. And, you can't miss if you practice. The vine life has no lack. The fruitage will confess it. Good. Now that you have seen how simply the living word becomes bread in your hours, let us be very tender and very plain about the detours that seem to promise a quicker road and only lead you in circles. The way is not complicated, but the mind, eager either to show off or to speed up, will try to help God along. Smile at it. The shepherd does not need the sheep to steer. Be still and know that I am God. Psalm 46:10. If we will be still, we will be kept. If we insist on running about with pocket compasses and megaphones, we may make a fine show and end with very tired feet. One common sidetrack is numbers counting heads, counting dollars, counting outcomes as if the kingdom could be weighed. Never be concerned about numbers. You cannot have a greater degree of success than your own developed state of consciousness. If your consciousness is ripening in oneness, the fruitage will come of itself, exactly fitted to your orchard. If it is not, 20 devices will not make the trees bear. Another sidetrack is novelty, the restless shopping for techniques and mantras and psychological gadgets. This week's secret, next week's premium model, all of which promise to add raisins after the loaf is baked and to make it sweet by label. And then there is the glitter that flatters personality, the psychic demonstrations, the forecasts, the astral photographs of your aura, the breathless voice that tells you which day to move your chair. Do not be harsh with any of these. Simply recognize them for what they are. Entertainment, sometimes harmless, sometimes an intoxication. An evil and adulterous generation seeketh after a sign, Matthew 12:39. The sign you are after is the quiet multiplication of loaves inside your own room. How then do you test the way you are walking, the book you are reading, the meeting you attend, the sudden light that flashes across your thought? Here is a threefold test that has kept me safe across oceans and years. First, does it deepen peace? Not excitement, not tremor, not a nervous happiness, but peace. Thou wilt keep him in perfect peace, whose mind is stayed on thee. Isaiah 26:3. If you come away steadied, you are near the pasture. Second, does it increase humility? After the class, after the answered prayer, after the warm fellowship, are you smaller in your own eyes and greater in gratitude? He that glorieth, let him glory in the Lord. 1 Corinthians 1:31. Third, does it return you to inner reliance? If you find yourself more dependent on a teacher, a method, a charm, or a schedule than you were yesterday, beware. The Spirit of truth will guide you into all truth. John 16:13. He is within you, not sold at a booth. Anything that does not pass this threefold test may be interesting, but it is not bread. This touches the old warning we have visited together. If I speak of myself, I bear witness to a lie. The Father within me doeth the works. If the voice you are following points you again and again to itself, to its brand, its book, its credential, do not fight it. Simply walk by. Call no man your father upon the earth, for one is your Father which is in heaven. Matthew 23:9. A true teacher throws you back upon the kingdom in you. A false one grafts you onto their branch. The safer way is always quieter and more anonymous than the advertisements think. Let your light shine, yes, but let it shine in such a way that men glorify your Father which is in heaven, Matthew 5:16, and not your name on a poster. Another safeguard is the right order of service. Our first work is within ourselves. We cultivate consciousness, then we help. If we reverse the order, we will tire quickly and help poorly. A young man in Johannesburg, keen and good-hearted, set out to reform his family, his office, and his city in one brisk fortnight. He had zeal, and zeal is a splendid horse, but he had not yet learned to sit quietly in the saddle. By week's end, he was cross and discouraged. By month's end, he was asking for a new technique. We sat an hour in silence with one sentence: I and my Father are one. John 10:30. And the tears that came were not of defeat. They were of rest. 2 weeks later, he wrote, astonished that matters had begun to rearrange themselves around him, not because he had pushed, but because he had consented. You cannot be a better healer than your consciousness of God. You cannot be a better counselor than your consciousness of love. You cannot be a better provider than your consciousness of substance. Do the inner work first. The outer help will flow as if it had been patiently waiting for permission. Keep humor and humanity at the helm. It will save you from fanaticism, and it will keep the credit where it belongs. God is not allergic to laughter. If you find yourself growing grim, pinched with seriousness, you have mistaken the yoke. My yoke is easy, and my burden is light. Matthew 11:30. I have watched lovely souls take on such a glare of sanctity that friends cross the street to avoid being converted at the curb. Smile, tell the ordinary truth, have your coffee, pay your bills, Tell the child a story, and do not try to sound like thunder when a whisper will do. And if, as sometimes happens when you are newly awake, a little phenomenon arises, a dream that is vivid, a word of knowledge that lands just so, a healing that stuns you, rejoice quietly and tuck it back into the bosom of gratitude. Rejoice not that the spirits are subject unto you, but rather rejoice because your names are written in heaven. Luke 10:20. Lightness keeps us honest. It keeps us small enough that the Father can keep doing the works without our elbows getting in the way. When in doubt, return to basics. It is the simplest advice in the world and the easiest to ignore when the carnival passes your door. The seed text, the hush, the gratitude, again and again. Sit down, get quiet, bring to remembrance a passage. The one we have used will carry you a lifetime, and let it rest in you as a seed in good soil. Keep it up until, of its own accord, another passage joins it, confirming that the inner storehouse is stocked and the keeper is on duty. Then rise in gratitude and do the next ordinary thing. This is not dullness. This is discipline, and it ripens into delight. Man shall not live by bread alone, nor shall man live by novelty alone, by numbers alone, by sparkle alone, but by every word that proceedeth out of the mouth of God. Matthew 4:4. If you stay with the word, the fruitage will stay with you. Do not be afraid of missing the way. The way is not a tightrope. It is a path wide enough for your 2 feet, your 2 hands, and your 1 heart. Stay with the essentials, oneness, quiet practice, self-effacement, and you will be kept on it. If a day goes ragged, begin again before the next hour. If a week gets noisy, begin again on the next breath. He restoreth my soul. He leadeth me in the paths of righteousness for his name's sake. Psalm 23:3. For his name's sake, not for your reputation, not for your record. That is the best safeguard of all. The government is upon his shoulder. Our part is to abide. And, you can't miss if you practice. The Father within will do the works. The rest will be the quiet story your life tells without your trying to tell it. So then, because love is practical and the spirit is orderly, let us set a gentle rule for the day, not a yoke of iron, but a trellis on which the vine may climb. 3 periods of abiding: morning, midday, evening. That is all. In the morning, before the newspapers, before the ledgers, before the day has scattered you into a dozen errands, sit down, get quiet, and bring your seed text to remembrance. I and my Father are one. John 10:30. Let it rest in you as bread and water. 5 minutes will do. 3 will do. 1 minute held in purity can do a work that an hour of anxious claiming cannot. At midday, before the afternoon begins to lean, and your strength with it, again turn aside for a moment. Be still and know that I am God. Psalm 46:10. In the evening, as lamps are lit and doors are closed, make your last conscious act a return to the shepherd. The Lord is my shepherd. I shall not want. Psalm 23:1. There you have it. Morning, noon, and night. Stillness, oneness, gratitude. Man shall not live by bread alone, nor by clocks and calendars, but by every word that proceedeth out of the mouth of God. Matthew 4:4. Rotate 2 or 3 seed texts only. Do not collect a museum. One truth, realized, is infinite in scope. Keep your circle small enough that the light can glow, not flicker. For a week or a month, stay with your 2 or 3. I and my Father are one. The Father that dwelleth in me, he doeth the works. John 14:10. Be still and know that I am God. After a time, one scripture will seem to ask for a companion. Let it come of its own accord. Keep it up until of itself another passage rises, and you will discover the inner storehouse is not empty and the keeper is on duty. Now, because memory is a tender servant but a poor master, keep a very small notebook no larger than your hand and call it remembrances. This is not a scoreboard. This is a psalter. After your day's quiet moments, jot a line or two only, not to boast, not to rehearse results, but to remember God. Bless the Lord, O my soul, and forget not all his benefits. Psalm 103:2. A sentence, a fear loosened, a call that arrived, a word that softened, a conversation, a bill that met its partner, a sleep like a child's. Just a line. Close the book and say, thank you, Father. Then put it away. You will be astonished when a month has passed to see the loaves and fishes that multiplied while you were not looking at the basket. Fruitage is shy when stared at. It blossoms when grateful eyes glance and then return to the source. As for community, let it be simple and without counting. Meet in 2s and 3s, in living rooms and kitchens, and share the harmonies that have appeared not to advertise, not to recruit, but to encourage. Let your light so shine before men that they may see your good works and glorify your Father which is in heaven. Matthew 5:16. Not glorify the worker, not glorify the meeting, glorify the Father. If 10 come, 10 is fine. If 2 come, 2 is fine. Never be concerned about numbers. You cannot have a greater degree of success than your own developed state of consciousness, and the world will draw near to the warmth, not to the poster. Keep each report humble and brief. Let there be more silence than talk. Let the air be thick with peace, not with words. And quietly, keep personalities out of it. The Spirit of Truth is the host. We are the guests. But when he, the Spirit of Truth, is come, he will guide you into all truth. John 16:13. Now, before we go our ways, let us do the simplest and holiest thing together. Close your eyes. Let the hands rest, the jaw soften, the shoulders release themselves back to gravity. Bring to remembrance the sentence we have used so often that it has become the raisin in our bread. I and my Father are one. Say it once, not loudly, but as one addresses a friend in the same room. I and my Father are one. Be still now. If other words come to you of their own accord, the Father within me doeth the works. Be still and know that I am God. Lo, I am with you always. Matthew 28:20. Let them come and go, like birds, lighting and rising from a branch. Do not try to help God. Do not try to think God. Consent to God. 1 minute, silence, bread and wine and water. Thank you. That is the substance of our way. From here, the sending is effortless, because it is not a campaign, it is a life. As my Father hath sent me, even so send I you. John 20:21. Go, not to preach, but to be. Do the work of an available branch. Be where you are needed, in your shop, your kitchen, your office, your city, your quiet lane, and let the Father within do the works. If a door opens, enter. If a hand is extended, take it. If silence is called for, be still. If words come from the inner place, speak simply and stop when they stop. I can of mine own self do nothing, John 5:30. The humility of that will keep you safe. The sufficiency of that will keep you supplied. Let tomorrow's proof be tomorrow's testimony. Sufficient unto the day is the good thereof. Do not hurry to tell what has not yet ripened. Do not keep a schedule with the Spirit. Walk in step with the easy yoke and the light burden. Matthew 11:30. Keep the daily rule, 3 periods of abiding, 2 or 3 seed texts, a remembrances line, and let love's government rest upon his shoulder. When you meet, share the bread that has appeared, and then turn again, all of you, to the baker. There is no end to what one realized truth will do. When tended faithfully, it will multiply itself into health and holiness and harmony, into ideas and right contacts and calm action, until people who did not know they were hungry will say, "Give us this bread always." And so, beloved, may the inner word be your morning and your noon and your night. Abide and abide gently. You can't miss if you practice. The Father within you doeth the works, and the fruitage will take care of itself. Peace be unto you. Go your way in quietness and in confidence. This is your strength, Isaiah 30-15.